Good afternoon. Driving home. Kind of having fun doing this. Now every time I get in the car, something will pop in my head. So this one's kind of sad, but I'm not going to let it be. It's been 19 years and it's more of a celebration. So I befriended Jani Lane of Warrant. Gosh. Long time ago. 2000, let's say 2002, 2003, somewhere around there. So, as a young guy, I graduated high school in 1991. I was a Warrant fan, man. I loved Warrant. That was my band. We saw them in 1989 at a club in Odessa called Dos Amigos. And they had a stage and they had an outside bull ring. Interesting. Only in Texas would that setup be there. So anyway, we met Jani that day, and I believe we had the whole band with us. And it was great. We got to meet them. We got to meet the band, hang out. He was so nice. And we just thought they were fantastic. Our band, that's who we wanted to be. We loved how they entertained and were crazy. And so anyway, that was 1989. And it's funny, that day we learned so much just hanging out all day. One of the big takeaways I remember as a kid was Jani was making fun of their backstage passes. And at one point, sorry about that. At one point, he looked at me and said, can you imagine our backstage pass? This is nothing but our cassette cover laminated. So that was a big moment for me, because I realized, I could make fake backstage passes. And actually, I did that quite successfully and snuck into a few concerts. But that's for a whole nother story of shenanigans. So anyway, saw them then, and then I believe like a year later, they were opening up for Motley Crue on the Dr. Feelgood tour, which we saw in Odessa. No, we saw that in Dallas. And then Cherry Pie comes out. And, that was a big record when that came out. That would have been 1990, the fall of 1990, I think. And I had this half-a-day class I would go to. And it was very casual. We all had part-time jobs. And so I would go, fourth period, I'd go to this class, and I was learning about business. And then he would leave and go to work. And the teacher was amazing. And we took full advantage, unfortunately. And so the day that record came out, we had a little record store called the Record Bar in Big Spring. And I left. I just split fourth period, just walked out of the class. And the teacher's like, "Where are you going?" And I'm like, "The record store, I'll be right back." So funny enough, 30 minutes later, I come walking back into the class like an idiot with remember the CD long box, the cardboard long box? So I come back walking in the class with the long box of Cherry Pie, holding it above my head. And Cherry Pie's out today, guys. And of course my teacher's looking at me like, "Boy, where you been?" I'm like, "Had to go get Cherry Pie." So anyway, and that was a big record, and that was a massive tour. And I think I saw him again in Odessa with Firehouse and Trickster as headliners. So anyway, and then I moved to Nashville, in February. Been saying this a lot lately. February of 95. January of 95. And so, by that time they had put Dog Eat Dog out, and grunge happened. Everyone knows that story, how all my favorite bands, the ending to that has been well documented. My version's no different than anyone else's. It really was strange that the music you grew up on, that everyone listened to overnight, was no longer cool. And I found it so hypocritical that people acted like they were listening to REM and not hair metal. You know, I didn't understand that because I still loved everything. I've always loved all kinds of music. So anyway, you know, Warrant's out, Dog Eat Dog. Times are not good. And then, you know, I moved to Nashville, and they put a great record out, a fantastic record called Ultraphobic. And, you know, the band had new members, right? James Kotak from Kingdom Come comes into the band. And, man, you know, it wasn't the original band. It was a different thing. But the way he drove that band, rest in peace, James. I loved Kingdom Come. And so the way he was driving that band, it was like they got a new engine, and I really liked it. So, you know, unfortunately at that point, they're in clubs. And so I would afford myself the luxury of wherever they were in Middle Tennessee or anywhere close, I would just go. I was young, you know, like 22, 23, working in the music business here in Nashville. And like if they were in a bar in Chattanooga, I would drive. And, you know, we would take gifts for Jani and, you know, reconnected with him a few times. And, man, he was always generous, gracious, and seeing him through all these various phases of his life and then getting to know him later on, he was always such a kind soul. So anyway, then, you know, a few more years go by, and, you know, I've climbed and made climbing my way up the ladder in the music business. And I was toying around with the idea of starting a publishing company. Rock and roll was starting to do well. And, you know, I had a little money to make investments, you know, and one of the ideas I was kicking around, you know, I became friends with so many of these songwriters in town and loved that culture, and had friends working and running publishing companies. So anyway, I was toying around with the idea, and I had this idea that I thought Jani's potential as a writer had greatly gone unnoticed. You know, again, well documented, the song Cherry Pie that he wrote in like 10 minutes because Donnie Einer, president of Sony, said he needed a hit like Love in an Elevator. You know, I mean, that story's been told ad nauseum. But if you were a fan of him as a songwriter, you knew songs like Sad Teresa, Blind Faith, I Saw Red, right? Lyrically, there was depth there that honestly, I don't think many of his peers were on the level, like at all, right? As a songwriter. So, you know, I reached out, got in touch with him. We started talking on the phone, talking about songs. And, you know, I said, look, I think their career had slowed down. And I think at the time he wasn't in the band when we started these discussions. And, you know, I was like, hey, I know a lot of people here in town, and I think a lot of them would love to write with you. And he goes, you think? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, man. It was almost like, I think not living in a community of songwriters, I don't think he really realized his potential. I know he didn't. And he was pretty low on himself around this time. So he was on some kind of VH1 acoustic tour or something at the time. So, you know, we had made a plan that once that was done, he was just out solo. It was like a solo acoustic thing for VH1. And he wasn't well. He wasn't in good health. And so we're starting to develop a friendship, and I'm encouraging him. And I really thought he could clean himself up, possibly move here and do well. So anyway, so we had planned to meet up. He was coming to town. Unfortunately, see, that would have been Thanksgiving of, I can't remember what year. I'm terrible with that. But he ended up, unfortunately, at a friend's house. He had left that tour quickly, and it wasn't well. And so anyway, you guys may know my dear friend Becca Bramlett. So Becca and Jani dated when they were young. Jani wrote Heaven about Becca. And then, you know, also wrote I Saw Red about her many years later. You know, they were young and in love, and Jani would always tell me Becca's dad, Delaney Bramlett, is the one that taught him how to drink. Apparently he was a legendary, drinker, and Jani used to say, I went to the Delaney Bramlett School of Drinking at a young age. So anyway, he's not well. It's Thanksgiving. Something that year had told me, I was single at the time, and I just had this feeling I was supposed to stay at home. I usually go back to Texas, and I didn't. And, I didn't know really why, but I stayed at home. So it was like Thanksgiving Day of that year, whatever year that was. I really think it was 2005, but I could be wrong. I get a call, and it's Jani, and he's like, somebody had told me they saw him at a bar the night before, and I think I tried to call him. A buddy texted me. It was like, hey man, he's down here at 12th and Porter and not well. So anyway, I think I had texted him. He called me back Thanksgiving Day, and I'm gonna leave a lot of the details because they're not important, they're not flattering, and we all have many moments that are not flattering, and out of respect for him, I've got some stories I've shared with friends, but it's probably not appropriate for this right here. What is appropriate and is good to note is he was a fantastic songwriter. So I go Thanksgiving Day, pick him up, and he wasn't in good shape. But thankfully, he was getting picked up by somebody that had his best interest in mind on that day. And I got the sense around that time there wasn't a lot of those kind of people. Or if there were, I'm sure they had gotten very burned out. Which, man, it's hard when you have a friend or a loved one that's struggling with any kind of addiction. The best well-meaning folks, quickly get tired of that. So I got him to the house. We talked about music. We talked about songs. It was interesting because I asked him, I said, we were talking about this Nashville thing, and I told him about some people I wanted to hook him up with, writers and what they had written. And I remember asking him, I said, is there anything on the radio right now that you wish you would have written? And I'll never forget this because it kind of took me off guard. Photograph by Nickelback was all over the radio around that time, and he goes, Photograph, I love that song. And I thought, you know what, that's a fantastic song, can't argue with that actually. So anyway, just kind of spent the day together at Thanksgiving. He ended up raiding the fridge and threw together kind of an awesome meal. People that knew him kind of knew he liked to cook and could just take whatever and make something. And so we kind of stayed up that night. We listened to a lot of music and talked and whatever. Yeah, so it was a Thanksgiving that I won't forget. Unfortunately, he found booze. I think I'd put my booze up, and he found it and got into it. And so the night kind of made a turn that I didn't see coming. But anyway, woke up the next morning and kind of knew I've got to try to get this guy home to his family. So I got a hold of his fiance, wife at the time, and we got him on a plane and got him headed back. But one thing I skipped there, a positive, he had this great song he had been working on. And he just had a verse and a chorus, but it was really good. It was like typical Jani, interesting changes, kind of finger-picked acoustic thing. And so we went down in my studio and just did an acoustic vocal of it. And it was really good. And I've had that thing since that day. To my knowledge, he never finished it. And I've got this recording, and every year, on the anniversary of his death, I think about this song, and it wasn't finished, but it was a really strong chorus. So anyway, we did this song acoustic vocal. It was really good. And every year on his anniversary of his death, I kind of think about it and I listen to it. And I kind of built it out the other night. I came up with the second verse in a bridge for it. But man, it's just for me. Anyway, dig into his catalog, man. He was a fantastic writer, and he died tragically, and it's very sad. And it made me very sad every year on the anniversary of his death. But this year, I do have to say, he came to my mind. I thought about him, celebrated him, and I thought, man, I'll share this story. Truly one of the best writers in 80s hard rock. So anyway, and you know, it makes me think of Becca, and usually I'll text my sweet friend and just tell her hello. But anyway, Godspeed, Jani Lane, and hope everybody's having a great week. And we'll tell some more stories. I'm really enjoying having a document of some of these things that are in my mind. Maybe it'll clear up more space for news stories. So anyway, have a great day.